Hello and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN FM, where each week is a wonderful exploration into the many facets of love, oneness, and our connection to the human spirit. I'm Lisa LaRose, and I want to welcome my co-host, Michael J. Rust. Absolutely delightful to have you join me.
Loving it. I'm loving it. Going to love this show as much as any other we've done.
It's an extra special show because the guest who is joining us today exemplifies what you and I have been speaking about for the last few episodes. In our recent episodes, we've been exploring what it means to trust your inner compass, that quiet voice of the higher self that guides us through intuition, synchronicity, and the gentle pull of our hearts. And when we quiet that noise that's all around us and truly listen, life begins to move with more clarity, creativity, and ease. And every so often, somebody crosses our path whose presence is a living example of what it looks like to follow that inner guidance with courage and authenticity. Somebody whose creativity is so alive, so instinctual, that it reminds of us what's possible when we allow ourselves to trust the process fully and without compromise. And today's guest is one of those extraordinary souls. Eric Alexandriakis is a two-time Grammy-nominated artist. He's collaborated with icons like Duran Duran, The Cure, David Lynch, and John Malkovich. He's somebody who follows his inner guidance unapologetically. His music, his creativity, and the way he moves through the world reflects a deep connection to purpose, authenticity, and, of course, love. We're so honored to welcome him back to the show. I always feel like a kid in the candy store. So I want to welcome you, Eric. I am so excited.
Thanks, my friend.
It is so delightful to have you join us again, and I want to see how you're doing.
I'm chilling like Bob Dylan on penicillin.
Yeah.
Just like not unlike a lot of people.
That's all right. You know, you really inspire me, Eric. I think about you growing up surrounded by scientific brilliance and academia and choosing a different path, becoming a classically trained musician, incorporating art and creativity in everything you do. And I think about your journey when you were diagnosed with cancer, not just once but twice, turning your pain into art, creating through isolation and uncertainty. And your album, Catatonia, earned you a Grammy nomination because of it. What it represents to me, you choosing love over fear and creativity over despair. I really have to applaud you. And I think for any of our audience who have ever aligned themselves with something that you love and that is your true passion, your true north, it unfolds in many different ways with ease and grace. And it's not as though you don't have any obstacles, but I think, just from our conversations that you sort of have one steadfast rule, and that's to be uniquely creative and to create ripples and really be true to who you are and trust your soul's inner guidance despite any expectations that are going on around you. And I would love for you just to share a little bit about your journey and what you're sort of exploring and how authenticity has meant so much to you and sort of staying true to who you are as a course that your heart will follow.
I mean, it's like oxygen. If I don't do that, if I don't follow that, I don't see what the point is. The industry, for example, which is actually dead. There's no music industry. All it is now is a music distribution industry, a live music industry, and a branding industry. Music is now the promotional item. But so for me, everybody's saying, well, AI this and AI that. AI is going to hurt some things, definitely. But it's not going to affect me because I see it as like I'm still going to do what I do the way I do it and within my niche. And I'm not really worried about some AI taking away what I do because I try to stay unique. The thing that bugs me, for example, with AI is the learning factor. where people's music and tracks and things are being used to feed in machines without permission. because I doubt any major label contract has any kind of clause in there that covers that sort of thing. And they're all developing AI, machine learning, and so I mean, for me, back to the authenticity, it's just there's no choice for me to do it. When I was to do it otherwise. When I was younger, I'd get hired by like Sony for a video game, and they want me to do copycat tracks of hits for a video game. Okay, fine, I'll do that. But that was then. I don't do anything like that anymore. I'm more focused on kind of carving my own thing and always trying to find new ways to do things. And, it's either be yourself, do it your way, or I just don't see a reason for doing it. I draw influences from pretty much anywhere. If I hear something and I want to add a little ingredient of that. But even if I draw from the Kinks or Depeche Mode or whatever, I'm not going to sound like the Kinks and Depeche Mode. I'll sound like a Kinks and Depeche Mode sandwich, something new. Because, you can't really copy unless you blatantly copy purposefully what somebody's done. But if you're taking various ingredients, you're always making something a hybrid in you. People, I've been described as like the Stone Roses meets craft work meets cinema, which I would gladly take that. And what's interesting is I never even thought of myself as that, but somebody pointed that out. And then when I hear certain songs, I'm like, oh yeah, that's interesting. That's pretty much what that is, So I don't know if I went off the rails there with the answer, but
no, you didn't, because what I was thinking was that you use your intuition for authentic expression. You can, when we intuitively connect to something, sometimes I saw a color in a painting and it inspired me. I didn't find a swatch, and I just mixing the color till I could get something that I wanted, and then had it scanned so that I could have a paint color to put on a wall. So I think inspiration can come from anywhere, and then it's how you process it and how you trust your own instincts. And I think that you do that so incredibly well, and then you have the gift of being able to create your own visuals along with it, and they become just mesmerizing. I'd love if you wouldn't mind just sort of speaking to the audience, because a lot of times we try to provide different tools. So if you think back to when you first started your journey, when did you first realize that you could trust your own voice over any industry expectation? Because that takes a lot of courage not to conform to what everybody else is doing and find your own voice and to be an independent artist and to go down your own lane such as you have.
When I was a teen, I was in a band, and all I wanted to do was sing. So I rarely, like the other guys, the instrumentalists, I didn't care what they came up with. I'm just like, okay, when you guys have music, just let me know. And the drummer wanted to write lyrics too, and that didn't bother me so much. I never liked singing other people's words, but then I would change things around and add my own thing. So, but then it was probably like what we were talking about before before it started, when in the mid-90s, when I heard Oasis for the first time and heard this like kind of sort of sloppy garage band, that didn't have the best chops, because I'm classically trained, so I was always about the best chops and the hardest things, and I loved, still do, Yes and Genesis and all those really complicated bands. And then when I heard these like 3-chord things, I'm like, wow, you can do that? I grew up with pop music from the 80s and was always into it, but, part of me was always like almost embarrassed to admit that I liked some of it, because I was so conditioned with complicated music starting early. So then I'm like, wow, the guitars are so loud you could barely hear the drums, the singer's blaring, and the song, the melodies, and it's so catchy. I'm like, wow. So at that point, I realized it doesn't have to be the slickest, most complicated thing, and it pushed me to do my first solo album. That and John Taylor's first solo album called Feelings Are Good and Other Lies, which was totally garage sounding. And I realized, well, I'll just do that. I'll just write something cool. And so it was really, those were the catalysts. And then I didn't really care what anybody thought. So, and I still don't. I mean, it's nice when people like the stuff, obviously. But then if somebody doesn't like it or says something rude in a review, you have to really question that person, because, like, why would you commit to paper something insulting? I've been lucky. I've only had like a handful of those over 30 years or whatever, 25 years or whatever. So
that was,
yeah. So I don't know. I've always just had a confidence about what I'm able to do, and I listen to everything, and just never really cared. Now, if somebody does write something rude, I get mad because it's the internet, and if somebody writes something, then it's there forever, and clearly they're just trying to be I don't know what they're trying to be, but that does irritate me.
Trying to get clicks.
Yeah, try to get clicks.
Their motivation is never going to be really known, but.
Well, I just think it's disrespectful. Like, I remember when we put out the first record with Malkovich, and we had press all over the world, Rolling Stone multiple times, and then we get a report back for the publicity, and one guy, I forgot what magazine it was like, yeah, this is what people with a lot of money do when they have, when they're bored or something. And I'm like, you didn't even listen
and
to
have
the thing?
deadlines.
Like, really? Yeah, I have deadlines. And I'm like, what a stupid response. So I wrote the publicist. I'm like, what's this guy's problem? Did he even listen to it? And she's like, oh, that's what he does. He always says stuff like that. I'm like, why are you sending it to him? Why are we paying what we're paying you to get this nonsense?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's and it's not that it was negative. It was just like, did you listen? Why do you have to be such a it's just foolish nonsense. Yeah. I mean, you can be a critic. You can be a critic in a positive and objective way, rather than like demeaning and this is they have money, so they're bored. I mean, come on. So so that bugs me for a day. Or less, and then. But I don't know. It's like it's almost like an instinct. I just don't really care to conform, or it's just, for me, I've always been attracted to the people who carved out their own thing, and I most of what I hear coming out today, it's horrible. I mean, there's good stuff and there's bad stuff, but I'm always finding myself just going back to, I don't know, the Velvet Underground, or something.
Right.
It's not that I'm older. It's that our music was better growing up. It's true. It really is.
Simpler. It was simpler as well.
Simpler, more creative. I mean, the 70s, nothing's ever going to happen again like that. The 90s tried. No. The 90s had some good stuff, of course. But the 70s, it's just like, it was literally back-to-back. You listened to Kraftwerk, Neil Young, Genesis, to Zeppelin, to Sly Stone, to Boney M and Chic, and all these different styles back to back, Pistols and the Clash, and it's like they were all trying to be they weren't trying to copy anybody, really. No. I mean, they had influences, but
carving out their own path.
Even when Devo came out, they were so unique and so
different.
They
still are. They are. They're amazing. It's just and then the 80s was like a hangover of like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and that was like a golden age of pop, I think, in many respects, from up to like maybe 86, and then the the kind of disco. I really loved that whole disco rock approach with like the frantic 4-on-the-floor drums and then the synthesizers and the galloping synthesizers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
interesting. Yeah, I got to be a little formulaic after a while. But.
It did. That's why Duran are probably. I don't have to say Duran. The original lineup will probably always be my favorite band, because it was at that impressionable period where it just had everything. They had the best photographers, they had the best graphic designers, they had the best clothes, the best catchy tunes. They could play, they wrote everything, the best producers. It was just everything was literally just everything. Every part of it was great. And but then I'll put on Weather Report now, and I love that, which took me a long time to get into jazz properly, because I always realized, what is the point? Where's the song? Where's the hook? Where's the thing? It didn't occur to me until much later that it's not about that. It's about challenging yourself and the listener, rather than I always equated it to metal, because metal was always about, this guy can shred. It's like, so what? So even a 12-year-old watching it on YouTube if he practices for a few hours, you listen to like Weather Report and Brand X and things like that. It's like, how is any of this humanly possible? And it's just, I'm just in awe.
It's a confluence of everything. Everything comes from a different direction, and it all it comes together. I could say literally, I've never been a real big straight ahead jazz fan, even though I play drums and all that. It's just been, Weather Report is sort of an anomaly when it comes to that. Just amazing how they can put together a melody with everybody going and doing their own thing and have it come out to be so artistically perfect from their standpoint. But I mean, it's people happen to, back in the 70s, they were inventing grooves and sounds and things of that nature. We talked about James Brown ahead of this, and he was. Here's the thing I want to say that's most interesting that I heard recently, that the mind cannot create anything new. It can only take something and mimic it, and only the heart can create something genuine, something new. And it's interesting because when I heard that with regard to music, I was thinking about a Neil Young, about a James Brown, about even the Stones. Borrowed their influences were from R&B from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, they're a blues
band. They're a blues band. So they wrote their own music, but their music was inspired by something that had already been created. So when you talk about a true creator, when I look at it, James Brown to me was somebody who took a simple 4/4 beat and had his drummer change it around. That's new. That's new, and that syncopation just like blew up, and now it's ubiquitous with everything. Even country music, even aspects. There's some country music I've heard that's got syncopation in it. Wow, this one creative thought, and from a heart perspective, I wanted to ask you about the truth involved in the creative process for you being heart-centered versus mind-centered. Have you ever thought about that, about where some of the ideas that you have, are generated?
Yeah.
You think it's heart-based versus, I know you've had a lot of influences. We've learned once you listen to a lot of different music, there's no way you can unlisten to it. So it's in your mind and, and the like. But you do create. You do create. And you say you're classically trained, so you're familiar with the perfectionism of playing various instruments. So what do you think about that?
If I'm hired to do something, a lot of thought goes into it, because you're trying to achieve something within a specific realm or for a specific task. But with my own stuff, I mean, a lot of people go through this. You know, when I pop on something to revisit it or work on it or whatever, I'll sit there and I'll listen to it, and all these parts and melodies and ideas come through it, and I'm just like, where did this come from? You know, right. You're just like, how did I do this? Like, and it may not be extraordinary. It just may be so unusual, a moment in time, because everything's a moment in time, musically, of course, and creatively. Right. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, how in the world? Like, I'll listen to something that I really love that I made, and you can't reproduce it. You know, I could go weeks and months and not have a single idea or a good idea, and then I'll have 6 new song ideas, you know, in a matter of days. And it just kind of, you know, it's just certain things. I remember listening to a band from the 80s. It was their debut. Anyway, I can't remember the name. But they in the lyrics, the singer was singing something, and the phrase "unfinished business" comes in. Like, he says "unfinished business." So then the moment I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's a cool title. It's like the title of an 80s movie or something. So as I'm walking and listening to this, right away a hook for a chorus with that phrase comes to my head, and I'm singing it over and over again. By the time I get back to the house, and this is during my walk, I have the whole song in my head. I sit down and I record the whole thing, and it sounds like it came out in 1984. It sounds like The Outfield meets Duran Duran. I'm just like, what happened? Like, it's it's something you really can't. Now, a lot of these writers for a lot of these big hits, you know, they go to the studio and they have books on universal themes, and they're always kind of looking for that to create, which is interesting. But I can't sit down and do that for myself. I can sit down and do that for somebody else if needed. So it's really, it doesn't even come from, like, some of it comes from the heart, I guess. I don't like to talk about myself in lyrics, so if I get, very rarely, probably the first tune I did, it was a blatant story about a girl from my youth, but usually if I see an idea or if I have an idea or something's bugging me or I want to talk about something personal, I'll just make up a story around it and project that on the fake story. So, you know, and that takes some thought, because I don't know, I just don't like exposing myself in any degree to that. But
I understand. It's understandable.
It kind of comes, like, there's the mind, the heart, and then there's another place. And a lot of it comes from that other place, because you're just, you know, you're done with it and you sit back and like, oh, where? How? What? Like, how did this get here? Something just takes over, and it's just idea after idea after idea on a song and part, and just things just snowball, and it's hard to describe. But there's definitely another place it comes from that isn't just the heart or the mind.
You know, there's a saying, Eric, that creativity is love in motion. And Michael and I speak a lot about energetic principles behind creation, and that when you align with your truth and your joy, the doors open naturally and everything falls in. You're in a vibrational alignment. You know, with frequencies, we speak a lot about vibration and frequency. And so when you feel good creating, you're already successful, and your true artistry emerges, not from that thought process. Not that saying, like you said, when you're paid, it's a different energy, it's a different frequency, that when you're just in that freedom of doing what you love, it's art in form, it's love in form. It's just amazing, and then it sort of creates that ripple effect. And I think that that's why your music is so in resonance with me, and in regards to so many other people, or even, for instance, Oasis. It's something, it's a creative energy that in some ways it's creating this coherent state where people are feeling that authenticity, they're feeling that joy, they're feeling the uniqueness and expressing that. And I spoke a while back about when Rick Rubin was talking about what people think of his stuff. He's like, I'm not creating it for them, I'm creating it for me. And that's what I hear from you. You're creating something. It's coming out, and it's hard, I think, sometimes, as you said, when somebody will look and criticize as that person did or write something that's not in alignment with the truth of who you are. And I think that's why it rubs us, because we know on a soul level, like, no, that's not what my heart was going to express. That's not how I want this to be received. And I think that that's probably why it kind of ruffles our feathers, so to speak. And but I'd love to have you speak a little bit, because when you're doing that, when you're in that motion and you're bringing things in, it's a creative cycle, and I sort of think that it mirrors life cycles. As we said, sometimes in that creative process, even when you've had major challenges in your life, it has opened a doorway to allow new insights that you may not have tuned into before. It's kind of like your heart's rhythm is tuning into it and letting the external stuff go away. So if you wouldn't mind speaking to that, just how you stay grounded and while you're sort of embracing this uncertainty of creation.
I think if I didn't have this as an outlet, I think I'd go insane. I often I talk about this with musician friends. Like, I have this organic, medicinal companion anytime I want, anytime I'm feeling bad, anytime I need to express something, and it's music. And science has done a lot of studies on brains of highly creative people, and I'm pretty much on the upper echelon because I can't turn it off. And they've discovered that certain parts of the brain have extra types of nerve endings that make one more susceptible to visual and audio stimuli. So, I'll look at a wall and there'll be a shadow, and somebody will be sitting next to me and say, well, what are you looking at? I'm like, what do you see there? And I just see like a wall. I'm like, well, I see a castle, or see the tower. And, so like I comprehend things and see things in colors and things much differently than someone who isn't creatively inclined. So it's something, for me, it's just what I am. And a lot of people don't really understand that it's not a choice. It's like women who like women, and men who like men, or men who like women, and women who like men, and all that. It's a chemical thing. It's not like suddenly you choose to like what you like. It's just a chemical way people are built, and it's the same thing with this. So staying grounded, I try to look at things as positively as possible, especially in dark times, and always look for the positive thing, and always tell myself if something goes wrong. It's like what I tell my kid. I'm like, something's bugging you, something goes wrong, tell yourself 3 times, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And, it works for me. And really, there's a solution to everything until there isn't. Until we're gone, then there is no solution. So I have to listen and watch films and look at photographs and all that to stay grounded. Otherwise, I would just completely lose my mind, especially because of this industry, and there are just a lot of really negative people and predators out there who are always trying to one up on you and all that stuff. So otherwise, or go take a drive somewhere, or, experience something new, and, just go explore. That keeps me grounded. But usually I'm lucky because I can reach for a favorite tune and instantly feel better. And I really feel sorry for people who don't have that capacity or don't realize they have that capacity. Because music does, you can see these videos of people who have dementia completely changes their energy and everything, and I think everybody has that within them, but they don't really realize it. So, I have to be creative to stay grounded.
The music though, I mean, happy that you brought that up. When it comes to music and people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, dementia, just for people to know, because my father passed from that, dementia is short-term memory issues. You have a long-term memory. And Alzheimer's, you have, basically, you're not remembering anything about that person. There's a distinct difference between the way the two maladies they manifest. However, one thing I can say is that for the what I saw in terms of the video that was used was for somebody who had Alzheimer's, who didn't remember their own daughter or their own husband or a friend or whatever. And when they played music that they had heard early in life, that it somehow just something clicked in their mind, and they don't even know exactly the way it works yet, but they evidently were it like flipped the switch. Really strange. Flipped the switch, and they automatically at that particular point they went to that place and they started speaking and thinking from that place, wherever it was they heard the music or previously, or I mean, it was the song, the tones of the tones of they engaged differently, they thought differently, they conversed differently, and it was all because that particular music frequency and those lyrics and that body of work was something that in their mind just clicked. And I know more research needs to be done about this. However, it's a fantastic discovery, and one that I mean, I know with my dad, for his, I didn't want to deal because he had dementia. It was all a short-term thing. He might ask your name, not mine necessarily because I was in his life, but if I brought my girlfriend in, he'd ask who I'd had a girlfriend for 10, 15 years, and he'd known her before and met her prior to the condition, the illness. He would still ask her name 10, 15 times. However, if we took him back in time to when we were in Izmir, Turkey, or when we were in the Philippines, or when he was in the military and did this, and we bring something up, he was quick to converse about it. In terms of he went right back there, and he could recall things about that. Yet, still at some particular point, say, "Who are you again? Who are you? You're nice to meet you." And you're like, "This has happened for the 15th time." But it's music has that magic, and when I saw the video, I was blown away by it. I mean, literally, is
that the one I sent
you?
There is
something. Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it is the one you sent me. It was just that, but that was a brilliant piece of work. I'm so happy that you did send it to me, because and I sent it on to some other people, because it's important to know that it's not always drugs that that create situations in the mind. There are things that are unknown to us that in music, and I've always said music and colors have a magic all their own, because even colors have frequency. So the beauty of what you do cannot be in any way, in my view, judged, because it is your own personal creation. People are going to criticize everything. People are going to criticize, they even criticize themselves more than anything else. They might write something, you go, "This is terrible," although maybe they haven't shared it with anybody. But Dr. Joseph Murphy, who I quote a lot on the show, was brilliant in the fact that he said that people are highly suggestive, and if you have if your title of what you do is critic, the downside of that is that you are criticizing without having the actual knowledge of why somebody created what they created. You didn't talk to the creator. You're literally outside the creator looking in, and you're making a judgment call, which to me that's nonsense. nonsense. You have to converse with the person and find out what their underlying motivations were. Get to know something about the making of that creation. I mean, you don't. It's like an art critic going looking at a Salvador Dali and not in any way conversing with Dali about how did you create, where'd this come from? You know, what this body of work is amazing. It's out there. It's wonderful, and yet it's his creation, right? And you can't criticize somebody's, or you shouldn't criticize somebody for their own creativity, because you don't know where it came from.
Yeah, and also
sometimes they
and also like art and music and film. You know, it's kind of like food. Everybody likes what they like.
Yeah.
But you know, when somebody just kind of gets hostile, you kind of have to question what's wrong with them. You know, it's just
it could be the brand.
No reason.
Literally.
Yeah.
Some people, some critics hone their brand is that kind of comment.
Yeah.
That's their brand. That they hone their teeth on criticizing everything, finding some nuance to criticize about whatever it is. And interestingly enough, my first question would be, are you a musician? Do you even understand music, or are you just listening to this and you're an art critic, but you're not an artist. You don't understand the process, the mental process, the heart process that goes into the process of love that goes into creating whatever it is. And the teachable moment here, and I was thinking about this for our listeners here on PRN FM and who listen to our Connect Love podcast, is quite simple. You're never going to understand the underlying motivations of why somebody says something about what you do. And the best thing to do is to simply believe in yourself and the creative process that comes from you, and never let anybody tell you it's wrong. Never let anybody tell you judge it in a negative way, because you're never going to understand where that comes from. Where they don't know where your creativity comes from, and you're never going to understand what their motivation is for saying what they're saying. And going down that rabbit hole is never going to take you anywhere. Bottom line, just believe in yourself. Believe in what you do. Believe that what you've come up with has value, because it does. Everything has value. It has value to you first. It may have value to somebody else who happens to come into contact with it, like Oasis, right? They wrote the music for them, and they put it out there, and it started resonating with millions and millions of people around the world. And of course, that's something I'm sure they hoped. However, it has to come from them and their heart first. And because putting the cart before the horse and saying, we're going to make a song, and I think this is what you were alluding to earlier, we're going to make a song that can sell, right? And they try to break down, the music business tries to break down this process of making a hit, right? And they try to quantify it, right? In some particular way, shape, or form. This is the formula for making a hit, and they take you to a particular producer who's made hits, and that's what I love about Rick Rubin. We mentioned him earlier, that he operates from a different perspective. Number one, he's not a musician, but he's also not criticizing your work. He's simply listening to your work and hoping to add something to it positive. He's not saying that's wrong, this is right. It's not a duality thing. It's just, if this resonates with me and makes me feel good, and he's saying, do more of that. Because I'm somebody on the outside. It's making me feel this way, and I know it'll make a whole lot of more people feel that way too. So keep doing that. I'm not here to tell you your business. Or,
it's the only way. It's the only way to function.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do it when I write. I know when I know for sure. I'm speaking probably out of turn for you, Lisa, but you are a creative. You're a wonderful graphic designer, and I love what you do. You're one of the most eloquent people when it comes to describing things about love and creativity and life, and the descriptions that you write for the show are insanely amazing. And I stand in awe of what you come up with and how you put it together. And I know I operate on a different plane. However, the beauty of what you do is can never be questioned. I mean, I don't question it. It's beautiful because it comes from your heart, and that's the wonder of the creative process. You should never let anybody tell you that what you're doing in creativity is wrong. The other thing I want to say is, yeah, go ahead.
No, well, I was just to say that's what pushes society forward. Like, if you look at societies that ban creative expression, it's not a coincidence that a lot of them are still living in tents and don't have running water. It's that creativity moves society forward, inspires science and art. Leonardo da Vinci inspired helicopters and all these different things, and without it, society doesn't move forward. So even the smallest little thing, creative thing, could put a smile on a kid's face and think it's funny to see a dog with a clown's mask or whatever. It gives them a positive feeling for the day, and then they go out and they enjoy their day. It's like every little thing adds to the betterment of everybody because of the ripples. The ripples.
You're absolutely right. It is. Absolutely. We did a show about that. And thank you for your kind words, Michael. I really appreciate them. Like you both, I find inspiration from so many different things. I love art. I love treasure hunting. I love finding things that have been discarded and are looking for a new life. And for me, words can be intoxicating. I really find so much inspiration from just everyday life, the things that are around me, the beautiful sunsets, walking in nature, just so many things that fill my heart with joy. So I think that we can find inspiration wherever we look, whatever it is that moves us to feel that joy and feel inspired. And Eric, it's so amazing, and I'm glad that you brought up when you put on music, because we've talked about this. When you put on a song, it can literally shift what's going on in your world. And I had a lot of a lot of chaos, a lot of things going on, and a video popped up, and it was The Hustle. And I'm like, and I went into that, but just listening to those beats, and I think it takes us back to almost the ancient traditions of how sound has long been used to align the body, mind, spirit. Mantras, drumming, and chanting is like becoming more popular because we need to go back to those roots. We've been so taken away from them and like programmed through TV. But music is medicine, and that vibration, when you feel it, it interacts with our emotions and our energy fields, and it restores balance to us, and it grounds us, and it's just so powerful. And I know, like, when you're creating what you do, your music, every note carries intention, and there is love in that. And like you'll say, when you go back and you're listening to it and you go, where did that come from? Well, I truly believe it does. It comes from that heart and from your authenticity. And I think when you said that about Oasis being a garage band, but literally what they're doing is so authentic and so true, and that's what people are craving. That's why they're selling out these stadiums. People need that. It's like on a soul level. And so I'd love to hear a little bit, I mean, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about some of the fun things that you are creating right now and what we have to look forward to. Can we get a sneak peek?
Yeah, sure. Actually, one thing I want to tell you is that, before Melanie Safka passed away, we were working on a track, and the demo I had done, which she really liked, was at a certain frequency, and she asked if we could lower it to a lower frequency because the frequency is a more calming frequency, and it's been accepted that frequency is actually a much more calming frequency than what the established frequency of commercial music is. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, we got to tune everything down and everything, which is kind of a pain. So, her son tuned it down, and I'm like, wow, she's totally right. Because she would perform in that frequency, her shows. They would tune everything down.
432, is it?
Yeah, 432.
432. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
love frequency.
Wow, this is wild, so it never even occurred to me. But there's science, there's a lot of science behind that sort of thing, and I kind of see a lot of people not really embracing it, but they should, because it's a real thing. But anyway, as far as what's happening, well, I've been scoring a feature-length documentary for a while now. Right now, we're kind of in a gap as the editor has to finish something else off, and I'm in a stage where I'm also doing music supervision for it, so trying to construct an overall musical dynamic for it. And it's much more complicated than I realized. I think people who make documentaries are like supermen and superwomen. It's so hard to create the emotional dynamic. Yeah, because it's interviews for, an hour and a half, whatever it is. It's like, how do you create that dynamic? So what they're doing, and this is the same editor we used on our other film. Sandro Miller is directing it, who we did all the stuff with Malkovich and everything. So it's a team that understands each other. So, we're hoping that'll be done, I guess, by the spring of next year. So that's been a focus. I'm backlogged 14 albums still, So there's a lot of the stuff, maybe the stuff with Dolores O'Riordan might come out through that, and there's 20 other tracks with Malkovich that haven't even been released yet, so I'm eyeing that.
Wow, that's awesome. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, there's so many things just kind of buzzing about. And I'm always writing and recording. There's always something going on, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But the film is really the priority for me. And it's been fun because right now, so far, I've done avant-garde classical music for it. And when they first showed me the intro clip, they were thinking, maybe you could do like a pad here and some little beat, let me try something. So I tried something completely radically different. I can't really tell you just yet what it is. So then they ended up changing the whole vibe of that around the musical vibe that I did, which made it, of course, more complicated for the editing. But they're really satisfied with that vibe, and I think it just kind of gives it a much more unusual thing. Basically, what I did, it's about a famous photographer, and he had all these eccentricities and would make noises and weird noises during his shoots. So I thought, and he seemed kind of like a cartoon character, so I thought I would play along to his eccentricities. So
that's cool.
On piano. Yeah, so it ended up sounding like Bugs Bunny or Carl Stalling, who did the Bugs Bunny stuff. Because he'd be like, and then I'd just play it on the piano, which, was really difficult. But and it took 10 times the time, but it was a very unusual approach. And I'm like, what's the point of doing something boring or not as interesting? So I just took the time to do that. So that's been a fun challenge.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it's going to be great. Sandro is just top notch. Everything he does is incredible and really interesting. And the editor, Craig, who did both of our Malkovich films, is top notch as well. So it's going to be good. And there's some big people in it.
Good people.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
That's excellent. Look forward to seeing that and seeing your creativity in action backed up behind a film.
Yeah,
that is a very challenging thing. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah, it is difficult, and because if you just do a pad, you just play a chord and a beat, and there it is. But to do, and I love Looney Tunes. I think they are absolute masterpieces. works of art, and just pop art, just the drawing all that, and the twisted personality and jokes and the guns and the big gun and the bigger gun now that would never pass. But then you have Carl Stalling, who had to score all that and get it down, get the movements and everything down perfectly. It's really amazing. So that's where that came from, interest in Carl Stalling for that approach. But there'll be other things. There's some other tunes in there, familiar ones of mine that are synced in different areas to have different vibes. But I'm always thinking cinematically with every tune that I make. I mean, even the song titles have to look like a cool film title in capital letters. So it's it has to look like a film title, or it just doesn't work for me. So it's got to be easy for me, to do it. It's time. The process is time consuming.
It is, but even what you create visually, I love following you on Instagram and seeing what you're posting on your stories. I wish I could capture them, because they're just the one that you posted recently. It was of Times Square, and the music that you paired with it, I felt as though it was, I don't know if this was your intention, but the Times Square was like a slot machine. You pull down this was my impression with the music that you pair with it, like you pull it down and this is what comes up, this is what you pull down, this is what comes up.
Exactly.
And it's funny you say that, because it was meant to be an overload of commercialism. Everything's like going really fast. Yeah, so you have all these screens, and then the colors. I picked the colors because, what's, bright colors to attract sales or to make a product look flashy, and sometimes I do things like that, and only after I realize what it is. It's just I just pick the colors. It's almost like a subconscious thing.
It is subconscious, I think, for you. Yeah. Your connection to your higher source, for sure.
Yeah. So I love making those little movies. It's a way to also just kind of keep my content moving, and because I like everything to have a somewhat cinematic feel, even if it's just on Super 8 or something kind of.
Why don't you let our audience know what your Instagram is, so that they can look you up?
Good question. What is it? ESG Alexandrakis, I think it is.
But it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's a beautiful day today.com. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or is it just,
it's a beautiful day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. Is that your Instagram at It's a Beautiful Day?
No,
it's just my name, my initial. It's a beautiful day today.
Okay, we'll put it in the description. We'll make sure to put it in the description.
It's a beautiful day today.com. Yeah, and it has everything. Eric Alexandriakis, and orange, and lots of orange, which is Michael's favorite color too. Yep,
my favorite.
Yeah, it's a sunny, high vibrational color, and that's exactly what it is.
It is,
and that's what you resonate. And I do. I always feel like a kid in a candy store, Eric, when you join us, because there's so much that you bring to this world, and I love it. Just visually, audially, everything. Oh, it's the truth.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you are guided on your own unique path, and you create. I think everything you do from pure passion, and there is. You're just doing it from a place of love. So I'm so grateful that you're able to make the time to join Michael and I for this wonderful
my pleasure.
exchange. It's always amazing.
Always fun to connect about what you're doing and talk about music and the creative process, and be able to take what we talk about every week to a different place and combine it with music and the creation of music, because that's everybody. It's something everybody can relate to, literally. And when you relate to it, when you come back to music, from, like we said earlier on, I think Lisa said it, you can be doing anything and you'd be out there, but as soon as you connect with a song that resonates with you, all that other stuff falls away. Music is so powerful. You can dissolve issues, challenges, and problems. You just literally take your head completely away from it, and reconnect you with your heart, your feelings, your emotions, and love, and the things that are most important to you in life. Music can do that if you allow it to. As I said, I'm not a straight ahead jazz. I agree with you, is very much like heavy metal.
Yeah, I can't get it.
That comment resonated with me too.
Yeah. It's like elevator music.
Yeah. It gets to be a little bit out there, a little bit crazy. And the frequencies are a little bit disjointed.
You know what's funny about it? You know what's funny about it is that it actually makes me angry. So if I sit there and I listen to like some love jazz thing, it infuriates me. And literally, I'm like, so I have to turn to something more complicated, more dynamic, and then I'm like, oh yes, which is kind of strange.
Well, but you know what, Eric, it's fantastic because you're tuning into what resonates with you, and you're forging your own unique path. And I think it's a great metaphor for our audience that whether in music or life, when you follow the highest expression of what you are wanting, that's success, and that's self-mastery, and that's sovereignty. And that unique expression is the love and the passion that's within you. And as you said, the world doesn't need another copy. We don't need more of the other stuff. We need the original, beautiful, unique you. So I want to thank you so much because that's what you do. And I don't know if you have any words of encouragement you'd like to leave the audience with about a small step that they can take today to honor their own creative, sovereign self, or what loving things that you can encourage them to create right now? I'd love for you to share it.
I'm lucky because I'm never lonely, because I always have an outlet for pretty much anything through creativity. The only thing I would say to people is to embrace their creativity, to try to, because you'll discover something that maybe you've never known about yourself. Like, for example, people will spend a fortune on Starbucks, but they won't spend 99 cents on a song, which will last a lifetime. Mm-hmm. So I think for some people it's an untapped resource that will open their minds and bring them joy, and they'll discover something about themselves. So I would always say is try to be, a lot of people are like, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I don't believe it. I think everybody does. I think it's just a matter of unlocking that certain combination. So my advice is just to seek out any form of creativity and see what jives. Go paint, go listen to something, pick up an instrument, something, and you'll always be much better off because you've learned something new about yourself, and you've learned a new craft and something new to do, and something that you may not have realized you absolutely love. So, go for it.
I agree.
Beautiful.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Beautiful words, man. Beautiful words. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank
always
you
nice
so
to have you.
much, Eric. Such a delight. Always a pleasure.
Big hugs.
Yes.
Yeah, big hugs.
Thank you. Big hugs to you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And until next time, peace out.